Hi, I'm Devin, and I'm here to share my testimony from witchcraft to Jesus. I'm going to start off right now by saying I'm so nervous. I made a video last week, my first video, and I was not this nervous. So I really think the devil's working overtime to try to keep me from making this video, so I took some notes to make sure I stay on track and I minimize the ums. So I started with my witchcraft with New Age, love and light, but the devil comes disguised as an angel of light. And that is so true with the New Age. People think that they're getting their power, their energy from Earth or from the universe or just some abstract idea that it's not. It's a deception. It's all from the devil. It's all demonic. You get your power from demons, whether you're doing New Age love and light manifestations all the way to ritual, ceremonial witchcraft or magic, which I did. So I'm going to go back and start in my childhood. If you watched my video last week, then you know what an absolute heck my childhood was. But if you didn't watch it, in a nutshell, I was severely abused in the most disgusting ways that a child can be abused until I was about 10 years old. So when I was about 10 or 11 years old, my mom converted to Christianity and we started going to an Assemblies of God church, and it's a very involved church. We went several times a week. Sundays we went in the morning and at night. We went to church camps and did all the plays. We did all like the Girl Scout things that they do. We were just completely immersed in the church, and my life got a lot better at that point. It wasn't perfect, and my mom still wasn't perfect, especially with me, but things were significantly better. And when I would go to church, I would feel Jesus. I would feel God in my heart when I was worshiping. So I had no doubt about God. Like, I would pray every day for my dad to quit smoking cigarettes, and one day he did. And I was convinced it was because of God, because of all my prayers. And maybe so. I guess I should be on the track of like, it definitely was. But there's a lot of things that I think I've been skeptical about. And I'm sure a lot of people are skeptical about magic, but I know from my experience that it's real and that demons are real. And if I know that that's real, like firsthand, then I know that there's another side to that, and that's the side that I want to be on. So that's the side I'm on today. So in my teen years, I got a little rebellious, but because of the way my mom was, I wasn't allowed to be too rebellious. And also, it didn't take much to be seen as rebellious. So I couldn't talk on the phone to boys. I couldn't wear makeup. I couldn't go to sleepovers. I couldn't really have friends over my house. I basically cleaned and was grounded most of my teenage years. That's mostly what I remember. And the few times I did go to my friends' houses, their parents would literally call me Cinderella. Oh, Cinderella, you got let out for the ball today. And it's kind of funny now. And I think it was kind of funny then to me, but also it wasn't a fun way to live my life. So by the time I was 15, I was inpatient in a mental hospital for harming myself because all of my trauma from my childhood started coming up and attacking me mentally. And then, And then I was still going to church, and I was still really involved in Christianity and really strong in my faith. And around 18 years old, I felt like God had abandoned me. And that was a familiar feeling to me, and very distressing. So I left the church. And I started living a secular lifestyle, and I started doing all the things that in my teenage years I wasn't allowed to do, and per Christianity I wasn't really allowed to do. And I started getting and dabbling into drugs, and I started having boyfriends. And one of my first boyfriends that I had introduced me to a very special substance called Rack with a C. Is the best way that I'm gonna say it. And I did that for about a year, and I was with him, and we didn't do it a lot, but it was a regular thing. And I started really getting into divination, especially astrology. And I would, get on my substances and just go on and on about people's astrology and dazzle them with my knowledge of things that I couldn't possibly know, even from knowing them. Things that they barely knew about themselves. So I definitely really enjoyed that feeling of power, that feeling of mastery over something. That's something that I don't think that I really had felt until that point. So I felt like expanding more into the craft and into occult. I started getting more into tarot, and eventually I started getting into actual witchcraft, like casting spells and meditating. And my meditations were not like my meditations were very very graphic. I don't know that I could say graphic, but they were very dramatic. I had one meditation that I meditated into a crystal. And I say that, and it sounds crazy, and physically I wasn't in a crystal, but my consciousness was in this crystal, and I was in this crystal. I can't explain it any other way. And I met this being, and he looked kind of like a gray alien, but with really tiny eyes. And he had like a bluish green skin. And I don't know what he told me there, but I do know that I looked this up later, and it looked just like Lamb from, I don't know if you've heard of Aleister Crowley and Thelema, but he was known as the wickedest man of the world, and he was in contact with this being. So he was in touch with this being, and now so was I. And at the time, maybe that should have been kind of scary or unsettling, but instead, again, it was really empowering, and it made me feel very special. So while all this was going on, I was still doing other drugs. Sorry, I was trying to say that quietly, but so I was still strong in my addiction, not the same substances, but always a substance. Alcohol was also a big one, big constant in my life with the magic. So there was a turning point when I was 38 years old that I'll talk about later that changed my whole life. Turned it upside down in the scariest, literal way possible, but it saved my life. So anyways, through all this work in the craft, I hadn't really understood that I was working with demons yet, but I was definitely working with entities that I now know are demons, but at the time it wasn't presented to me in that way. Again, Satan comes disguised as an angel of light, and so do they all. They wouldn't get people to sell their souls or in this demonic worship, basically, if that's how they started it out. Like, it starts out easy, and it's like a grooming. Like, they groomed me to start out love and light, and then slowly I was doing full-on rituals to these demons and getting their assistance in the things that I needed. And at some point, it wasn't just them being helpful. I was being literally attacked, like paranormal activity attacked, like literally in my house, the footsteps. I went to sleep one time, or I put my kid to sleep, and he came out really fast and was like, "Why is a ghost?" I'd never seen him so scared in my life. Excuse me. And he said that he heard something, and he's like 5 years old, so we're kind of like, "Oh, I'm sure it was nothing, it's just a dream, whatever," and we just put him back in bed. And then I was sleeping in my kids' room at that time, And when I went to bed, I closed my eyes, and I swear to goodness, the scariest sound I've ever heard. I've never been so scared in my entire life. I could feel it in my bones. I could feel it. It was like coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But it was like the loudest growl, like just like you would see in the movies, like just a deep guttural growl. And it was like terrifying. And after that, I was like, get rid of all my magic books and do all this. And I was like, I need Jesus. But that wasn't the point that I had the turning point. This was still in my late 20s. I still had a long way to go down the path before I was scared enough. And my life was almost taken from me. So I also had a lot of night terrors, where I would wake up screaming, and sleep paralysis, where I was sleeping one time at my friend's house, and I had this dream that something, like I was in the shower and somebody took the shower like cord and wrapped it around my neck and was strangling me. And when I woke up, I couldn't breathe, and I felt like someone was on my chest. And I closed my eyes because I was so scared. And it finally stopped, and I fell back asleep. And the same exact thing happened. Same dream, same feeling when I woke up. And this time I didn't close my eyes, and I saw the shadow people at the foot of my bed, but I couldn't see what was on me. I couldn't move my head or anything. I could just move my eyes. And I was like so scared and panicked because I couldn't breathe. And then I saw them leave, and I heard the door shut, like my bedroom door. Like it wasn't even just a spiritual thing, like it was like a physical, real thing that was happening. I don't really know what the truth is, but that's how it felt to me. There was this other time that I was looking at books, because I like to collect old magic books, and I found Simon's Necronomicon, which if you're in the occult community, you know there's many different Necronomicons, and this one was specifically not fiction. And I was flipping through it, and I was with my friends. We were all partying like we always did. And I went to bed that night, and my hair was just like this. Just like this. And I woke up, and like this much of my hair was like matted to my head. Like just completely matted to my head, like in a bun. And I was horrified. And also confused, because like, how could this happen overnight? And it wasn't like I had not been brushing my hair. Like it literally looked just like this. But I never put together until later, I'll finish the story, that it was demons. So I actually for like 6 weeks was working on this matted knot on my head to try to get it out. And I even went to hairstylists. One of the hairstylists that was going through my matted rat's nest on my head said there was literal braids, and like my hair was crocheted together. So that's the point that I was even more confused. Like somebody had to have done this to my hair, but there was nobody that could have done it when I was sleeping. And it would have taken like hours for a person to do that. Like just to sit there, and I don't know who would do that and who could do that. So anyways, I was listening to a podcast years later, and it was talking about how demons would braid horses' hair in the middle of the night. And I immediately stopped the podcast and like soaked in what they just said, and that what had braided my hair into that rat's nest was probably a demon. And it just took this level of like, it's all spiritual, it's all energy, blah blah blah, to like, they braided my hair in real life. So obviously that was scary, and I kind of like started wanting to get sober, and I wanted to get clean. And I had met somebody online who I had known in high school, but we didn't really know each other, but we like knew of each other. And we started talking, and it was going really well, and he was kind of offering me this like white picket fence life, and I was not doing well and really, really like at the depths of my addiction. And so I felt like this sounded like a good opportunity to change my life and finally have my family. Like at that point I had already had 2 older kids, but I wanted more kids, and I just wanted to have that like family, like normal family unit. And so I went there, which was like 5 hours from where I was living at the time. And we got pregnant the first time that we did the deed. And it was kind of like a sealed deal after that, where I was now going from my dad's house with my older kids to this new house with this new man that presented himself as this prince, really, this great, amazing family man. And I slowly learned as time went on that that was not the case, and that he was actually a very terrifying man. And I had my kids there with me, and he had an episode, and they ended up moving away because they were so terrified from what they saw. So when he would lose his temper, it wasn't like a normal person who gets mad and loses control of their emotions and reacts in anger. He would get really quiet and really calm, and he would say really terrible things to you with a smile on his face, and his eyes would change, and it was just this really chilling experience every time that he would this is Esther. Hi, Esther. Anyways, so every time he would get mad, he would threaten to kill me. He would do like one of these, like right in my face, like he was gonna hit me in the face, but then he would stop. And me, having zero will to live, would tell him, go ahead, do it, go ahead, like, and kind of taunt him. And he never did hit me, but the mental and spiritual abuse was so much worse than being hit. I told him one time, I wish you would hit me, because then at least I would have proof that you're being really abusive and that you're being terrible. But he never did hit me. So we split up, and for about 6 months, I was living in our house and he was living at his mom's house, and I had started drinking again. And so a couple months after I started drinking again, I got some really bad news from my older kids, and I was trying to quit drinking at this point, and I said, I need a beer. And so I got my kids in the car, and I looked at my puppy, and I said, I thought I was going to bring my puppy, but I was like, no, I'm just going to the store. She'll be fine if we just leave her at home. And we did not come right home. 6 hours later, my car had flipped over and crashed into a tree. And it was the literal hand of God that nobody was very hurt. There was some scratches and bruises. I had some cracked ribs, but to see the wreckage of that, and then to know that everybody came out of that with just some scratches, is a miracle in itself. But I didn't feel that way for myself. I was extremely happy that my kids were okay, and extremely ashamed of myself that I could do that. But I was blacked out before I even went to get the beer. Sometimes I have blackouts from my PTSD and maybe from the demons. So in my defense, I wasn't like aware of what I was doing even before I was drinking, but the damage to my relationship at that time with my kids obviously was pretty severe. I felt like the worst mother in the world. I was sitting in jail angry that I had survived the crash, because my whole life I had wanted to die. I didn't want to kill myself, but I wanted to just not wake up. And that's from the time that I can remember till I was 38 years old. And I was sitting on my bunk and I was listening to the girls. They were having a Bible study, and I rolled my eyes, like, it literally rolled my eyes. And they were reading a Bible scripture, and all of a sudden this floodgate opened up and this rush of emotions came over me, and I started like bawling, like ugly crying in front of everybody. Could not hold it back. Not a good idea when you're in jail. But I couldn't help it. Like, it was such a release of so much emotion, and I felt so loved and so forgiven. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, I felt so loved. It was like such a powerful otherworldly experience of sitting in jail, having lost everything. Lost my kids, I lost my marriage, which thank God. I almost lost my life, I lost my car, I lost my house, like, I lost everything, and I'm sitting in jail with nothing. And to have this level of like peace and comfort and just like powerfully envelope me was just something I'd never experienced before. And I've experienced a lot of supernatural, spiritual things, and nothing like this. And I got down from my bunk and I asked the girls to say the scripture again. And we prayed, and I finished crying, and I haven't been the same person since. I stayed in jail a couple weeks longer. I immediately ordered a Bible through the chaplain and got it pretty quickly, and I still have and use that Bible to this very day. It's the Recovery Bible, if you're wondering. Really good Bible, especially if you're in recovery. And I just like everything about my perspective on myself and on life. And I just had this new like feeling of hope for the future, even though I had nothing. Like, if there was any point of me wanting to not be alive, like, this would be it. But I didn't. I had just this strong will to live. And to this day, 2 years later, I'm happy to wake up every day. My life is completely different. I still don't have a car, but I do get to see my babies, and we have a great relationship, and I have a good co-parenting relationship with their dad. I have a good relationship with one of my older kids, but because of the trauma from the relationship that I had, one of my kids is still not talking to me. But I pray every day that, God's going to change her heart and that God heals her heart. I hope one day that she changes her mind. But I'm at peace with that. Even through all the things that I've been through and that I'm still going through, I'm just at peace with it because I can give it to God now. And I don't have to shoulder that burden myself. And I don't have to know how things are going to work out. And I don't have to do astrology and find out who someone is. I trust God, and I trust God's going to keep me safe, and He's going to give me the power of discernment with people and with opportunities. And I have my own business now. I have this beautiful puppy. I have an amazing boyfriend. Like, I have a relationship I never thought I could have. Possibly because I was in such a place of low value and low self-worth that like I wouldn't accept people who would treat me right. And through the change that Jesus brought into my life, I have this self-love now, and I have a feeling of self-worth that allows me to be loved and to love somebody else. And that's another thing that I never thought I would achieve through all of the work that I did on my PTSD and my trauma and all of my issues. I would work daily, and sometimes it just felt like it wasn't doing anything. And maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but as soon as I accepted Jesus back into my life, everything changed, and I was a whole person, and I was healed. I still have bad days like everybody, but I handle them normally now. I don't overreact. I don't have a meltdown, you know. I think of solutions, you know. I'm just able to manage life and the obstacles that come my way and look forward to and take advantage of opportunities that are in front of me. My whole life has just changed dramatically. My whole self. I'm so happy in a way that I never thought I could be, and it's only thanks to Jesus. Thank you for listening to my testimony, and if you liked it, please like, and if you want to hear more, please subscribe. Thanks, bye.